Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Joe Metlow with Next Level Auto Detail. And today we're going to be covering a very important subject, and that is the unspoken truth about clay substitutes when you compare it to traditional clay bars. So right now we're working on this beautiful 1992 Infiniti Q45. It has 30,000 original miles. It is in pristine condition. We're going to be polishing it, prepping the interior. So we got some watermarks that we have to polish out. But before we start the polishing process, we are going to have to clay this vehicle. So clay substitutes, they're very popular amongst detailers, professional detailers. However, I do believe that these are some of the most overrated detailing products that's on the market. You know, people absolutely love these things, and I just never really understood the hype. So today we're gonna be showcasing the differences and why I personally prefer a clay bar. Now, I don't believe this car probably was ever clayed before in its life. It does have some decent contamination on it. So we're gonna spray our Uber at clay lube ratio, and we're gonna work this area. You guys hear that? Hopefully the camera's picking up. So we're gonna use this first. We're gonna clay this area. So I basically did this entire area, correct? But I still hear contamination. And at this point, right now, I know that I'm not necessarily removing that. I know that this block already removed whatever it was capable of removing. So you still hear that? Even though you hear that sound, we're not really removing that because the sound isn't going anywhere. So that means that the contamination is still present. So now we have our traditional clay bar, and you could see all the contamination that we're already picking up. Obviously, we didn't do this spot yet. I just wanted to showcase that this car does have its fair share of contamination. It's probably never been clayed before in its life. I really want this car, by the way. So right now we're gonna need the clay bar. And this specific reason is another reason why a lot of detailers don't like traditional clay bars. But we'll talk more about the advantages and disadvantages later. I kneaded up the clay bar, nice and fresh, white. We're gonna go back to claying. Now, right now, you guys hear that sound? You hear that? But look, that sound is disappearing. So that means that we're shaving that last little contamination that clay block just couldn't get. So you see that slight contamination, that color there? So let's finish our area. So do you guys see the remaining contamination that was left behind? So look at all the remaining contamination that was picked up by the original clay bar. Remember, we clayed it quite thoroughly with the Nanoskin synthetic clay. We went over every area, we worked our sections, but this was still able to pick up that last remaining 15-20%. So that's why I'm not a fan of these synthetic clay blocks. That's why I always like using traditional clay bars, because these are only capable of removing sometimes 70 to 80%. They will always leave a little something behind. Now, they might be a little bit faster. They might cover a little bit more surface area. It's nice that you could drop them and clean them out. However, nothing is as effective as a traditional clay bar. Nothing. So this really shaves the paint. I would always rather take the extra time and endure all the extra headaches that come with using a traditional clay bar, because I know that I'm being the most effective at shaving the paint in preparation for the polishing process. Now, We do paint correction, we polish paint, right? Do you really think I want this in my pads, in my liquids, in my compounds, in my polishes, in my ceramic coating step? No, no. I want to get the paint as clean as possible because even the polishing stage is going to take away that last remaining percentage that the clay bar just couldn't remove. So I want to work on the cleanest surface as possible when I'm prepping for polishing, coating, sealant, whatever it is. I want to work on the most cleanest surface as humanly possible. And these synthetic clay blocks, they just don't get the job done. I really do feel that these things are the most overrated detailing tool on the market. And the funniest part about this whole situation is that this is the medium sponge, which is designed to be more aggressive to pick up more heavier contamination. So imagine how ineffective the fine grade is, the blue one. Does that make sense? The medium, a lot more effective at removing damage, but it also scratches and mars the car a lot more than a clay bar. So yes, it's nice that it covers more surface area and you could drop it and clean it. And the drawback with clay bars is you have to knead it. If you drop it, you have to throw it away. It's more of a pain because you have to knead it. Sometimes it slips out of your hand, but absolutely, the comparison is, there is no comparison. A clay bar is absolutely more effective, and it absolutely is capable of picking up more contamination than any clay substitute. Now, these do have a place in some settings. I would say more production type settings, like for paint enhancement, waxing, sealing, wax shops. But in a paint correction setting, a paint correction environment where you are actually polishing paint, not paint enhancement, real one-step paint corrections, real two-stage paint corrections, and real ceramic coating PPF, absolutely always use a clay bar, guys. Believe me, you think that I don't want this to work? You really think I want to go through the pain of buying multiple clay bars and kneading it and dropping one? No. However, I just can't see myself putting the time and effort of using this thing and knowing that I'm not being as effective as a clay bar. My mind just cannot handle that. I cannot use this in good conscience knowing that I'm leaving contamination behind. It bothers me. 10 times out of 10, I will always reach for a traditional OG clay bar. Now, I recently did a review on the Mother Speed clay, the synthetic clay. That is by far the most effective clay substitute block that I have ever used. It's still not as effective as a clay bar, remember that, but it's absolutely worlds better, light years better than the nanoskin blocks or the mitts, if that makes sense. I will never understand the hype behind these nanoskin blocks. I never will, and I will always prefer to use a traditional clay bar. Until they bridge the gap and they figure something out, there is no replacing this clay bar. If you guys did enjoy the video, consider giving it a like. It will help our channel grow. If you aren't subscribed already, consider subscribing for future content, and make sure to check out some of my other videos. I'll catch you guys in the next one.